أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Alhamdulillah, we've been blessed and have to give shukr for the capacity and for the ability to be again in a majlis Aza of Abu Abdullah. This blessing is not something which is small. This blessing is not something which is given to everybody. Every opportunity of this remembrance, it's something unique, it's something that requires shukr. The topic today, in terms of the Shahadat of Imam Redha alayhi salam, is quite unique. It's actually a historical analysis of something very fundamental. But pay close attention. Imagine if you have some sort of knowledge that you have, okay, and you want to tell it to everybody, okay? What process would you take to go ahead and tell people that? So let's look at an analogy for a sec. For example, if you have an average school system, let's say, okay, and then they want to announce what day school is going to start, what classes are going to be this year, who's your teacher going to be, what types of activities should they be looking forward to, is there any changes in the staff or not, and so on and so forth. If they want to tell that to everybody, right? Imagine if that was done with no system at all, no thought through mechanism at all. Okay? So just a principal wakes up one day and starts shooting WhatsApp messages to whoever he remembers as the parents. That type of communication would fail, right? Okay. So when it comes time to spreading knowledge in a more fancy way, the disbursement of knowledge, right? When it comes time to spreading knowledge, you have to understand that the spread it has to have a thought through mechanism in it. It has to have a thinking before it. If it doesn't, everybody's in trouble. See that? When it comes time to spread the knowledge in Islam, right? Do you think that the mechanism should be there as well, or no? The spread of the knowledge of ad-din in of itself would be without a particular mechanism at all. It's not the case, right? It makes very intuitive sense that if a simple school system and a principle of a school system requires a little bit of thought and a little bit of pre-planned avenues of communication, right? Then Islam too has to have developed something that allows for the message and the content to spread appropriately to each person, right? Yes or no? Okay. What happens in a school if the students find out before the teachers find out? You think that that's going to be a very productive and nice thing? Probably not, right? So that you also see that this knowledge has to go down and trickle down in a very appropriate way. So what's the levels in the school system? Well, there's the board, right? Then there's the main office, correct? The principal, the vice principal, and so on and so forth, right? Then there's what? The teachers. Before the teachers, sometimes a school might have department heads, correct? Then you have the parents and the students and so on and so forth, right? So knowledge coming in through, let's say the board decides that this year, instead of starting in September, we're going to start in October, okay? They're going to have to tell that in a very appropriate way, right? What if they announce that to the parents and the students first? The teachers and the office is going to call them and say, what? An important decision like this, we should know about it first, right? It should be coming through us that we should tell the students and so on and so forth. Do you think that's a valid expectation the teachers and students will have? Yes, right? Fitratan, it's true. When it comes to Islam and the spreading of information too, some sort of thought and some sort of mechanism has to be there as well. Do you see how this mechanism is separate from the actual contents? When you're talking about this mechanism of how to spread things, are you talking about the actual content? Meaning, are we talking about, for example, what day the school will start, or if there's a pizza day or not? No, right? We're talking about the way how we're going to talk about things, right? Right or wrong? See that? So in this disbursement of ilm, right, it's very separate from the actual content of the ilm. But it's not entirely separate. It's quite unique. You see that? When it comes time to announcing pizza days, do you think that they're going to announce it on the day in the morning announcements only? Or are they going to announce it a week before? A week before, right? So you see there's some link between the content and this method, but it's not the case that they're the exact same thing. You see that? Okay, salawat please.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
We also see that as the school grows and develops in different phases, this method will change. Imagine a school in a village with just the principal who happens to be the teacher as well, and the board and everything, and so on and so forth. And they're teaching 3 or 4 kids. Ever seen a school like that? I have. I've gone and helped build one of those. In villages, sometimes you have a place where there's not a lot of families. One person goes and learns a particular science, comes and sets up a place and says, you know what, there's no school here, I'm going to start teaching some stuff. You see that? And then the mechanism that guy is going to have is going to be very different than, let's say, one of the Shia schools here in Toronto, right? As the school develops from one phase to another, before there was just one teacher, now there's a few teachers together, now there's also a principal and departments, now there's a board, and so on and so forth. As the school goes through phases, the method of disbursement of knowledge will be appropriate to that particular phase. You see that? The time of Imam Redha alayhi salam is a very unique phase in this school of Allah. Salawat please.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
How unique is it? Well, before, how valuable is $5,000? How valuable is it? Very valuable? No. What if you were expecting $5 billion? Is it valuable now? Huh? In a very different way, right? So how you get to a particular thing is very important. That destination itself without the journey is quite ambiguous. Meaning it's not clear. You don't know what to make of it. If I give you $5, you're like, was I supposed to get more or less? You don't know how to feel about it. You see that? The journey is very important in distinguishing and understanding how valuable the destination is. So I mentioned the destination first. I said that the time of Imam Redha alayhi salam's imamat is a very unique phase in the deen of Islam. Very unique. Okay? Talk about that in a bit. But we got to first talk about what made it so unique. You see that? In the time of the Holy Prophet is now doing what? He's teaching the masses. Is he holding classes for ahkam and aqaid and let's say history classes? Anybody heard in the seerah of the Nabi that the Holy Prophet said, today we're going to have ahkam classes at 4 to 5 p.m. Have you heard that? How about this? The Holy Prophet said, these lecture series of mine are about aqaid and those ones are about ahkam. And we heard that as well? No. You see that? The disbursement of knowledge in the time of the Holy Prophet was not one which was divided in the subjects. Why not? Why not? Think. Well, the phase that the deen was going through was quite small. How many teachers and principal and boards and so on and so forth were there in that particular time of the deen? Well, the Holy Prophet. He was the principal, the board, the admin, the teacher. You see that? Now, and did he have more than 24 hours in his day? No. You see that? Was he miraculously in 4 places at once every single day? No, that's not how he guided individuals. You see that? The method used to disperse knowledge was very real. That means very real boundaries limited now how that knowledge was dispersed. In that particular phase, one session with the Holy Prophet had both ahkam in it, appropriate to what they needed. Was he talking about parking ahkam? The ahkam of parking? No, there was no cars back then. You see that? He talked about the ahkam of the things that those people actually needed. Did he talk about the isma of the ma'sumin alayhimus salam, the imams? No. Why? Because At that particular time, that was not the phase to develop and introduce that particular concept. You see that? You talk about pizza day in a village when there's just one teacher and one principal, there's no pizzas in the entire village at all? No. You see that? Okay. But does that mean that pizza day is not important? No, it is important. You see that? Okay. You talk about a curriculum in a place where parents and students and so on and so forth have never seen a school before. No, because they don't know what this is. You see that? Even though a curriculum is an essential aspect of the school. You see that? But it doesn't require a proper discourse at that particular time. In the Holy Prophet's time, you see that there is mention of imamat, there is mention of some traits regarding imamat, even the individual and so on and so forth, but it's at the level and the phase of the introduction of the deen. You see that? Something very unique happens near the passing of the Holy Prophet's time. What happens? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives everything in a packaged bundle called the Quran. All the stuff that's going to come later on is already presented in the words of the Quran, but it's just not opened up for you. See that? See that? Salawat, please. So what happens now is, after that, we see that there's a particular tradition that all the Imams follow. They always look at the zikr first, and then they prescribe to people fikr. What are these two things? Let's look at them. What is zikr and what is fikr? Zikr is basically words. So words that are stemming from and originating in and tied to some sort of perfect source. Was the Holy Quran written words as it came down to us? Yes or no? No. The first interaction we had with the Holy Quran was by means of words spoken. You see that? Were the ahadith written or were they spoken? Majority of them were spoken. Many of them were written too. You know that? The Imams wrote letters. Okay. So we see that there is actual words and actual ayat that are sourced in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, by means of the Holy Prophet and his family. And then the method that Ahlul Bayt used was that they started opening up and explaining the deen by means of opening up and explaining those things. We see that continuously and constantly in the seerah of the Holy Prophet himself regarding the Quran, and in the seerah of the Imams regarding whatever questions were posed afterwards. Let me give you two examples. Salawat, please. When it came time for the Holy Prophet to teach prayer, how do you think he taught it? First time trying to introduce an idea of salah. They let everybody gather. I'm going to show you some stuff. These are the arkan of salah. This is the ruku. This is the sajda over here. Okay, now that you've learned it, now we're going to do it. Is that how you think he did it? No, there's no class like that. He said one line. He said, "Salli kama sallaytamuni." There's a longer version of that hadith too. Basically, he's saying that pray like how you see me pray. We set up a mechanism of teaching through what? Role modeling. Salah was taught through exactly that. You think that means in the beginning, everybody prayed Salah the pristine, best way? Right from the get-go, the first Salah they did, they were able to catch every word and everything in exactly the same way? No. But what did it mean? It means that as long as they kept wanting to learn, they learned. And the moment they stopped wanting to learn, what happened? They stopped learning. You see that? There's a unique mechanism used by the Holy Prophet to teach what? One of the fundamental pillars of Islam. Anybody doubt that Salah is, na'uzubillah, not important in Salah, in our deen? Absolutely not. One of the most important things. Salawat, please. Let me give you another example. This was now the actions of the Holy Prophet, which is what? The Sunnah. You see that? So ahadith aren't just words said by the Imam, they're also actions done by the Imam, and they include silences of the Imam too. Where something happened in front of the Imam, but the Imam remained quiet. Yeah? All of that is important. When it came time to talking about Hajj, somebody comes to a ma'asum and says, we know we gotta run between these mountains. We have to do the sa'i, right? But which one should we start from? Could the Imam say just start with Safa? Could he say that? Is that easier to say? Yeah, right? Imam comes and says, start from where Allah starts and quotes a verse of the Quran. Which one's a harder answer to do? Someone comes to you and says, brother, where should I exit this room from? Are you going to point at that door? Probably. Is that easier? Yes. Or are you going to say, leave the room from where we decided the room should be left from, which is in that text, that door. So if the Imam is using this mechanism of talking, that means he is establishing something very, very important we have to pay a lot of attention to. When somebody comes during Hajj to the Imam to ask, where should I start? Instead of pointing there, which is so easy to do, right? One word, there. He doesn't have to say anything, you can just say, right? The Imam says, start from where Allah started and recited a verse of the Holy Quran. As-Safa wal-Marwa, As-Safa wal-Marwa, min ash-sha'airullah, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? That Safa and Marwa are from the great pillars or the great recognizers belonging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah, when He was introducing them, started off with which mountain? Safa. So when you're going to start your sa'i, where are you going to start from? Safa. You see this method of explaining things? The Imam establishes, I'll just give you two examples, like 15, 20 more that I had in mind, but I'm not going to tell them right now. Two is enough. The Imam comes and establishes this thing and says that, listen, Safa should be done, should be the starting point. Do it from, and where am I telling this from? I'm telling this from this verse of the Quran. So he's saying that when it comes time to understanding and learning, I, the Imam, am establishing for you, the people, to look at the zikr first and then go to the fikr. Okay? Look at the text of that's directly connected to, unquestionable text that's directly connected to Allah or the sunnah of the Holy Prophet and the Ma'asumin alayhimus salam. And then if you were to now bring in intellect and logic and understanding, make sure that they're within that paradigm and thinking. What happens if we flip them? Salawat, please. What happens if we flip them? Well, let's look at this again. Let's look at different phases of difficulty. Remember, school systems had different phases of difficulty. The one guy running a school in his basement in a village didn't have to really care about a lot of getting sued stuff because there's no courts, right? But then as they get further and further in the phases, a lot of considerations have to be done. So again, when it comes time to understanding this, let's start with a simple thing. To put together this, to open up and set up just a tripod, do you require an instruction manual? Are you like, if I hand you this tripod and say, can you please open it up for me? Are you going to be like, oh, Sayyid, you know what? You have to give me zikr first and then I'll do some fikr. No! You're going to be like, okay, this is very simple. I can put together a tripod myself quite easily, correct? Okay. Now if I tell you, here's a phone, set it up on the tripod. You know, okay, setting up the phone is quite easily, Sayyid, done. Now I'm going to tell you, set it up for recording. Who's going to ask me, is there a password or not? Yes or no? You fitratan demand zikr. You see that? You're like, wait a second, if you're giving me something that is beyond my scope, right? You demand fitratan what? Zikr. Like, tell me first, Sayyid. Yeah. Could you tell me that, hey, you should have said this to me before? Probably, right? If I come to you after the majlis and you're like, oh, Sayyid, the phone had a I tried to set it up, but the phone had a password on it. You know what I'm trying to say? Can you come and blame me? He said, you're right, I should have come and asked you, but you should have also understood and told me, correct? Would you be able to say that to me? Would you be? Ask yourself, would you be able to or no? You should be. It's your phone. I'm not a scary person. You can say that to me. Fitratan, you'd say, the problem starts from you, not from me. I added to the problem. I didn't come to you in the middle and so on and so forth. But the reality is, problem started from you. When it comes time for the development and the growth of this particular deen and explaining the knowledge and so on and so forth, if the zikr is not the fundamental starting line, then the fikr has no justification on the Day of Judgment saying that I just thought of this on my own. Like, where to start from? If I could point at a zikr and say, this line of thought started from over here, then I have a justification for starting that particular fikr. You see that? In the starting of the fikr, Allah is not going to come and say, hey, how dare you think? But if I did fikr first, and there was no zikr there at all whatsoever, Allah might come and say, did you consider that I already told you what to do? Yes or no? If I come in over here, right, and I start rearranging the sofas and the wall and this room, I make it into a washroom, I don't know what it is. This room I make it into, let's say, a kitchen. I'm like setting up a bedroom over here, right? You guys will come to me and say, what are you doing? There's already a pre-planned structure to this place. If you're coming in without inquiring about what's going on and making changes on your own through your thought, you're going to have a fundamental problem with that. Yes or no? Yes. Even if I did the best renovation, you're still going to say you should have first talked to us. Are we the owner of ourselves and Islam and the growth of it? Or is Allah the owner of Islam and the growth of it? Who's the owner? Allah is. So now when it comes to our interaction with a creature of Allah, just like how if I was to interact with this room, I would first talk to who? My society, right? If I didn't, they would say, what's wrong with you? When it comes time to interacting with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you actually fitratan have to go to the zikr first and then come down to the fikr. Salawat please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Okay. Somebody can come say, hey, there's a potential problem, Sayyid. In the Quran it says, Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa. Means that the Rahman is standing on or is upon the throne. If I take that and I just think about it, then that means that God has a throne and God is standing, so He must have some capacity to stand, right? Some feet, okay? And if He's standing, that means that He should, there's other phases too. Could be lying down, sitting, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty limited God. So say this whole going from the zikr then to the fikr caused the problem. What will you tell that guy? Okay, but where did you come up with that idea? Was your thought told you that? Okay, where did you come up with that idea? You're getting warmer. Okay, where did she learn that from? Okay, she learned that from some sort of text. If you didn't, and that person can say, you think that way, I think this way. You see that? It is essential to understand that if you come to that particular person and say, hey, Ar-Rahman al-Arsh istawa, the meaning you're taking from that is incorrect, my neighbor. Okay? Wahhabi sometimes say. It's incorrect. Why? It's incorrect because you didn't consider the whole zikr. If I looked at La ilaha illallah and said, see, Islam says there's no God. It's like Buddhism. You'd say, wake up, buddy. You didn't finish the sentence. It says La ilaha illallah. You see that? So when it comes time to looking at one verse or one hadith, it becomes important to understand that you have to have the capacity to understand the vast plethora of zikr. Plethora being what? The vast various amounts of quantity and qualities of zikr. Right away, what becomes apparent to you? You need somebody knowledgeable in zikr. You see that? You see that or no? Either you yourself become knowledgeable in zikr, you should know the verses of the Quran pretty well, and you should know the ahadith pretty well, such that you can now extract things from them, or you find somebody who knows. Yes or no? So the importance of an alim is extremely critical. And this alim is somebody who's supposed to be, at some level, an expert on the ayat and the riwayat. Salawat, please. So this development continued from the time of the Holy Prophet with the other Imams and so on and so forth, until it got to the time of Imam Redha alayhi salam. Why was this time so special? Why was this time so special? What happened after Imam Redha alayhi salam's imamat? Let's look at the imams afterwards, okay? How old was Imam Jawad alayhi salam when he became the imam? Who here is 7 or 8 years old? Put your hands up. Put your hands up high so everybody can see it. Imam Jawad alayhi salam was 7 or 8 years old when he became an imam. Okay? How old was Imam Hadi when he became an imam? If you're 9 or 10 years of age, put your hand up. Son, 9 or 10 years of age, Imam Hadi becomes the imam. Imam Askari alayhi salam, you know he was the only imam who hasn't done Hajj? You know why he hasn't done Hajj? When did he start his imprisonment? It was in the time of Imam Hadi. Imam Hadi took Imam Askari to Samarra with him when he was imprisoned. Imam Askari was 3 or 4 years of age when he went to Samarra. And after that, he wasn't allowed to leave. You see that? Imam Hadi alayhi salam goes to Samarra. Salawat, please. Imam Hadi alayhi salam goes to Samarra at the tender age of 3. He's in house arrest. Only imam who hasn't done Hajj. See that? What does that mean, house arrest? What does that mean? Does that mean that the people in Medina and Mecca could go to the imam and ask him questions and be in his company and chill with the imam? Yes or no? No. What happens after Imam Askari alayhi salam? The 12th imam went into ghaiba. You see why the time of Imam Redha alayhi salam is quite unique? The pillar of Imamah, right, is about to enter a phase in which there are a lot of apparent hurdles for the Muslim Ummah coming about. If that falls, we're in trouble. Can you stabilize it? The microphone, the phone. Salawat, please. Imam Redha alayhi salam's time becomes an extremely important time. So this disbursement of knowledge, this spread of knowledge has to be in accordance to this particular phase, just like that school system. See that? How did Imam Redha alayhi salam spread imamat such that till this day me and you can benefit from it? This is the take home point. Salawat, please. Imam Redha alayhi salam was one time in Marv, Jummah Salah, Jummah prayer time. People were talking about, after the prayer about imamat and so on and so forth, and then somebody came to the imam and said, Mawla, can you tell me about imamat a bit? These guys seem to not understand it. There's a lot of ikhtilaf on who can be the imam, who shouldn't be the imam, and who we should put as the imam, and so on and so forth. The imam smirked a little bit. Okay, he said, these guys don't know what they're talking about. And the imam gave this very beautiful hadith in which each line in of itself is something that could be studied at a very, very high level. Okay? We're going to get 1 or 2 lines from that only. See that? There's zikr. Now we're going to do some fikr on it. The Imam in that particular hadith says that al-Imam Ussul Islam. What does us mean? In Japanese it means yes, us. What does it mean in Arabic? Us, it means, sometimes some books will say it means root. The root of the tree. A more correct understanding is that's the core. See that? It's the thing that's keeping everything else running. You see that? Another way of looking at us is hinted in that same line where the Imam says, Al-Imam Ussul Islam, but he doesn't stop at Islam, he says, Anami, the living. The Imam is the core of the living Islam. What does that mean? That if you take Imam out of Islam, it becomes a not living Islam. You see that? So please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Is Imamat that chapter in the Aqaid book and that's it? Can't be. If Islam isn't just that book that you read that is called the Tawzil Masail, if I took the Tawzil Masail from your hand, are you going to say you took my Islam from me? No, right? If I took your Aqaid book from you, you're going to be like, you took my Islam from me. You won't, correct? If you forgot to tell yourself that I'm a Muslim in the morning, made you forget that, are you going to be like, oh, today I wasn't a Muslim? See that? Islam isn't that label or that text or that appearance of it. Islam is the very life that you lead. You see that? You are Muslim because you are following Islam. You see that? So now if you're praying or you're eating or you're drinking or you're driving and so on and so forth, take every aspect of your day, which is another unit for your life, and take Imamat out of it. What Islam is left? What Islam is left? Tell me. Well, the Imam said that Al-Imam Ussul Islam Nami. The Imam is the core reactor, the core agent, the root of what? The living Islam. Okay? So if you have a living Islam in your 24 hours, right? That means that within the 24 hours, everything that you're doing, and attention to the fact that you are actually connected to an Imam should be there at some level. You see that? If you take that component out of the Islam you're living, did the Imam say that there's no Islam there? No. He says that the life of that particular Islam is proportionate to the involvement of the Imam in it. Salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So for some people, the general idea exists that an Imam is there and he gave us his deen and he allowed me to work and so on and so forth. And as long as they're attentive to that, at that level, their Islam and their day was alive. For others, that attention is not a general understanding, it's more of a specific one. And now when they're in a majlis, or now they're driving home, they're like, actually, when I'm driving home, even in this particular situation, I ain't separate from the Imam, he's connected to me. For that particular person, that moment in life will be at that level of life. You see that? What does life represent? Well, if something is living, then you can expect effects of that particular thing from it, right? Would you expect fruits from a dead tree? Probably not. Would you expect a lot of teachings from a dead teacher? Probably not. You see that? Okay. It's important to understand that if you don't see the impact of Islam in your life, and it seems like Islam is a label, I live my life and Joe Schmo lives his life, and the reality is that we both go to work and we both choose courses and we both eat the same types of food. He eats pizza, I eat pizza too. He eats pasta, I eat pizza as well. And Islam ends up being that entity which is not showing any apparent effect. And the question you should be asking is not whether or not Islam is important or not. You should be asking if it's alive or not. And the livelihood of Islam is dependent upon your tawajjuh and attention to the Imam during your life. That tawajjuh and attention develops your connection to the Imam during your 24 hours. Salawat, please. Imam Redha alayhi salam had a very short span of time to put and place a lot of comments and a lot of seeds, a lot of ahadith and rituals and so on and so forth, such that it lasts the Shia all the way till basically Qiyamah, or the Dhuhr at least. So this was the time where the caravan of the Shias had reached the last petrol station before Kingston. They had to fill up as much gas as possible for the rest of the journey. So this time is very important. The ahadith that Imam Redha has regarding Imamah is essential. At the time of the passing of Imam Redha alayhi salam, he does something very, very important. He calls one of his close companions, and I won't take too much of your time. He says that Ma'mun is about to poison me. My time to depart has arrived. That tomorrow, Ma'mun is going to bring some pomegranates and some other things, poison, and invite me to the palace to eat some of that. After he's made me shaheed, when it comes time to the kafan, Ma'mun knows that my lineage is in Medina, far away, and the age of them is quite young. Ma'mun has a plot to usurp imamat. When it comes time to my kafan, Ma'mun will try to do my ghusl and kafan himself. Because there's a widespread and correct tradition that the ghusl and kafan and dafn of an imam is done by another imam. Imam tells his companion, don't let him do that. How? Call him close and said that if you do this, the imam, Imam Redha saying, tell him the companion, call Ma'mun close. Tell him that Imam Redha told me you're going to do this. And he has a message for you. But the message is that if you do this, Allah is going to get you. He won't let it happen. You see that? Imam says, later on after that, when comes time for the burial of my body, Ma'mun is going to still there as well, show that his family, the Abbasis, are actually the leaders. And you know how he's going to do that? When you're lying down in graves, you face which way? The Qibla. You see that? When you put a dead body, the dead body is tilted such that their face is facing the Qibla. Okay? Ma'mun is going to try to put me in the grave such that I'm facing Qibla through his father's grave, as a sign that he's the leader and I am the follower. See that? He's already giving me the title, Wali Ahad. Wali Ahad of who? Of Ma'mun. Who is the successor of who? Of Harun. Showing that this particular laying of the grave itself also then became something that was a ploy. Imam tells his companion, when that particular time comes in, tell Ma'mun that just put one pickaxe in front of your father's grave, once only. And Allah will make sure that no matter how hard they try to dig the grave on this side, it won't dig for them. That's exactly what happened. Imam said, okay, this is a good chance to show that Imam is not an actual Imam. One pickaxe is not going to dig a grave. And he put one pickaxe, and he sees that there was actually a formed grave underneath too. Things crumbled. When it comes time to burying the Imam tells his companion, tell Ma'mun that when he's about to bury me, wait until there's going to be water in that particular, that water is going to subside by itself, then place me in the grave. And don't put any sand on me. At that particular time, Ma'mun had when Imam was placed in the grave, Ma'mun had come and told the other people that at least in this way we can show that the Imam is dependent on us to even at least bury him. Let's go and put the sand on him. And the companion came to to Ma'mun and said, even here the Imam had said, hold your horses. The Imam had told his companion that the grave will slowly fill itself and I'll be buried there. Salawat, please. But alas, a time comes that such a burial was not granted to one of our Imams. For this particular Imam, unfortunately, there was no companion left that it could tell the murderers and the oppressors of that era, just like we have murderers and oppressors of this era. There was no companion left with the Imam who could go and tell those murderers what not to do with the sacred body of an Imam. It is narrated that after the battle has commenced and it comes to an end in Asr Ashur, at the night time, evening time, the enemy asks for fresh horses to come and trample the body of the Imam. And when they find themselves in the court of Ibn Ziyad, one after the other, they're saying we should get money and we should get benefit and we should get bonuses for we did this particular act. At that time, Ibn Ziyad asked them, did something unique happen? There are multiple accounts here. One account says that these individuals said that it was quite unique, that when we had trampled his body and afterwards we came to see there was calluses on the back of his body. Someone asks, but you had trampled his body while his back was facing the ground. So what were these calluses from? Over there another person, a pure person, comes and remarks that this individual was the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He was the person who at night time would carry bread and food to the orphans of his city. And these calluses were from the bag of food that he was bringing to the oppressed. We're believers of such an Imam. We're believers of such a Mawla, that in the most difficult of times, he remembers his Shia. He tells them, when you're about to drink water, O Shia, remember me, signifying that if you're doing anything more important than drinking water, also please remember me. An Imam who remembers us in the hardest of times. May Allah allow us to remember him in the easiest of times. Salawat. Matam Hussain.